let's go into it. Let's dive in. All right. So what is stress? So stress, there's positive stress, and then there's negative stress where the body has negative impacts from feeling stress. And stress is a feeling where you might feel mental tension. You might feel that you're in a state of worry. You might feel that your body and emotions are changing because they're responding to a challenging situation. Stress can show up in many different ways. And when we talk about stress and we talk about chronic stress, so there's stress, positive stress, where maybe you're working out, you're at the gym, and you are elevating your heart rate intentionally and bringing it back down to be able to train yourself, whether it's just fitness training, whether you're training as an athlete or any, maybe marathon training, or just training that you are physically working yourself up to achieve a desired, heart rate, and challenging yourself in that way, and that it's regulated and it's monitored. And then there is ways where we experience negative stress. So ways that our body responds by the blood pressure being elevated. And when we'll get into a little bit more of what happens when the blood pressure is elevated and how that can negatively impact you, as well as what stress hormones are. But when we talk about chronic stress, so chronic stress is being in that constant state of fight or flight. So when the body experiences a challenge, the body's natural response, stress response system has fight or flight. And it's designed to protect us against any threat, any perceived threat. So when you're feeling chronic stress, when you're feeling stress every single day, or and moment to moment, and it builds up, it can have really negative effects on all the systems in the body. It can have various external effects as well, which we'll get into. So chronic stress is being in that constant state of fight and flight. So always being in that. And what happens, we'll get into it a little bit more, is what happens though is when you're in that state, the body's constantly releasing the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And adrenaline increases the heart rate and the blood pressure, and so your cortisol is distributing that stress hormone in the body. And that also, what that does is it can spike up glucose. So that's your sugar. So it can increase that sugar level to the brain, other areas of the body. And what happens is these impacts of these hormones being released in the body can have negative impacts on the systems that are designed to help the body function optimally. So for example, digestive, lymphatic, nervous system. So we'll get a little bit deeper into that. Anybody, again, if you have questions or if you have feedback, anything that we're chatting about, just putting it in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feels on this topic, because it is something that I feel that we all can relate to right now. And we'll talk about reasons why. Why do we feel stress? So financial reasons why we might feel stress, relationship breakdowns, barriers, strained relationships. That can be personal relationships. It can be job stress. It can be school stress. If you're in school, whether it's, any level of education and you're just studying, there can be stress, and there can be, overload in your workload, and managing that workload can be stressful at times. So sometimes it can be a workload for school, it can be a workload for your job, it can even be a self-imposed workload. So you know, tasks that we have that are piling up and they're doubling up, and when we see those tasks we start to feel overwhelmed and anxious. So that can cause, that can also be a sign of stress. So there can be loss, grief. That can also be a reason why you may experience stress or feel periods of prolonged stress. So what are other, maybe also as well as illness, right? If you are have a newly diagnosed illness, or you're managing a chronic condition, that can have an impact on your mood. It can raise your blood pressure. You're dealing with pain as well, right? So there's various reasons why we can experience stress. Injury, you know, trauma. Right? So life trauma, we can be carrying life trauma. You may experience new trauma, and that's causing you to feel these feelings of sadness or overwhelm or anxiety, or feelings of loneliness, or just and just noticing, you know, as well, signs that you feel that you're not smiling as much as you used to, or you're feeling tension in your jaw, in your face, in your cheeks, in your forehead, signs that you're carrying stress. So what are those are some ways that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, right? So tension can also go into your shoulders, into the neck. It can cause tension in the back of the neck. So you might feel migraines or increased headaches, or even experiencing headaches that you never had. You might feel memory loss. So you may experience memory loss. So feeling forgetful. Because when we're feeling stress, tension is carried in the body, and again, that impact on the cardiovascular system, right? Cardiovascular health. When you're feeling stress, what happens is the vessels are constricting, they're tightening, and when that happens, it's narrowing blood flow. So what that means is the oxygenated blood flow that carries nutrients and minerals around your body, especially to major organs, is limited. And it's again, high blood pressure. So, you know, it's not healthy for the body, for the mind. Again, it can increase risks of heart attack, stroke, digestive system issues as well, because stress can suppress the digestive organs, immune system as well. So chronic stress, again, feeling that constant state of stress can weaken the immune system, and it can change the immune system as well. So your body's response to being able to fight off disease, illness, viruses. So again, a few things, right? We're talking about effects on that stress has on the body. So we're talking about physical ways that stress can impact you. We're talking about ways that it can impact your relationships. It can impact your ability to do your job at work. It can impact productivity, impact memory. So things that you need to do day to day, and it's just not getting to the forefront of your mind because your mind is distracted, or it's on, you're feeling just that constant state of stress where you actually feel checked out, and you're not motivated, you're procrastinating, and you don't want to deal with anything. So avoiding. So how else does it show up? Sometimes we're comfort food. Anyone want to put in the chat, how do you notice stress showing up in your life? What are ways that you identify when you're feeling stressed out? Anyone want to share their thoughts or feels on that? Sometimes nail biting, grinding of the teeth, so teeth grinding. Sometimes it can impact time management and poor management. Yeah, fatigue. Yeah, Rocky, fatigue. So just constantly feeling tired and drained. And that can also, when we speak of, and when we touch on stress and that mental tension, often we can feel exhausted, not just physically, but there's mental exhaustion, constantly thinking about the circumstances we're in, or the reason why the stressor is there, or just not being able to see past the circumstances. So sometimes that can also really impact your sleep as well. It's on your mind, you're sleeping, you're waking up at night, in the middle of the night, and your mind is constantly on these thoughts of maybe also what you can't control. And we lose sight of the things that we can control, and we may lose sight of the accuracy of the thoughts and the reality of what the situation is. And sometimes we can add in and emphasize and add more stress on top of stress just because we're feeling anxious, we're feeling overwhelmed. Also, the tendency to misinterpret and have mixed signals and cross lines, just because the focus is not fully there. So we may be only selecting different parts of conversations, or just interpreting it in a negative way, because when you're feeling stressed and you're feeling in fight and flight, your body feels like it's under an attack. So when you're feeling stressed, you might constantly feel like you're under attack. And when you feel that way, you might feel irritable. It might impact your mood. It might affect relationships that you have with people, because you're just feeling maybe everyone and everything is against you. That it's a constant fight. And again, so that can really lead to exhaustion. It can lead to negative thoughts. So we've talked a lot about what causes stress. We talked about ways that it can show up in the body. We talked about what stress is generally, and we talked about what chronic stress is. So that prolonged period of stress every single day that's keeping you in fight and flight, and that's having can lead to significant physical damage, mentally, physically, emotionally. So let's talk about best practices. So the things that we can do to help manage those stressful times. So anybody feel free, if you want to drop in the chat, what are ways that you feel when you feel stressed out, ways that you manage your stress, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Feel free to comment on that. So some best practices, which may be practical practices, just some that you might feel you might have already tried before, and maybe some that you have heard about and you haven't actually tried, but you'd like to try. Anything like that, feel free, drop it in the chat. So some tips that I can tell you, being a wellness coach. Yeah, exactly, Rocky. Breathing techniques and meditation, you hit the nail on the head right there. So when you're able to have regulated and working on controlled breathing, and what that does is it helps, again, giving more oxygenated blood flow around your body. It helps to regulate your heart rate. It helps to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, which really allows the body to relax, gives it that permission. The lymphatic system. So again, when, feeling stressed, you might feel more swelling. So when you're breathing, you're allowing more blood flow, more nutrients, minerals. So your body will feel an impact, maybe less swelling or the swelling resolved, because maybe also adding walking into those moments that you do feel stressed. So doing an activity, maybe it's walking, maybe it's running, maybe it's gentle stretching, maybe it's yoga. What else? There's some other things, I know as well, volunteering in community and connecting with others and learning about others and their struggles and giving back. I find that really also is a way to relieve stress, and it also helps me know and that I'm not the only one experiencing stress or going through a challenging time in my life. So when we can connect with others, it helps us to change perspective. And another way as well is for us to notice when those negative thoughts are impeding and they're consistent, and that you're giving those thoughts energy, because we can change our thoughts. We can switch our thoughts to find gratitude, to focus on what we do have, what we can control. Those are great ways to manage stress. Journaling as well. So having a journal, whether you're just reflecting or releasing any stress, any anger, any confusion, and just trying to write things out and give yourself a little bit more mental release and clarity just by organizing your thoughts and recognizing what the thoughts are in your mind and what the stories are that you're telling yourself. So positive reframing is finding ways to look at the circumstances lining. So another, a few other tips, reading a book, lighting a candle, maybe a diffuser and putting in some essential oils and just helping the pathways, using the senses to help open up the senses, the pathways, and just help the body respond to soothing herbs and oils, and that also has scientifically proven to have an effect on the body where it helps the body to relax the mind. Laughter. So laughter is a big, stress relief, laughter therapy, right? Finding ways to laugh, finding ways to take yourself less seriously, and reminding yourself that we're all human at the end of the day and we're all doing our best. And we want to also be able to recognize unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships, and look for ways to nurture positive, healthy relationships, cultivating that in your life and releasing the ones that aren't serving you and aren't empowering you and that are, the ones that are adding and, that nurturing growth, watering the seeds in your life, and you doing the same for others, right? So it's really important to notice the quality of your relationships and the frequency in those relationships. Are they positive? Is it heavy? Is it stressful? Is it strenuous? And then checking in, how are you contributing to that? And as well as taking moments to take a step back and look at the situation, or have time in between elevated, charged emotions, because times that we are in an emotionally heightened state, there can be blurred lines. And again, that perception can be skewed. And when we let time happen in between, we're just able to let the dust settle, as they say, and be able to look at the situation or circumstance with more clarity and just less fog. And again, so that's, switching from being emotionally charged to discharging those emotions, and not saying that you're not acknowledging it. You are acknowledging what you're feeling. It's just the level of attachment that you're feeling, because emotions are emotions. They don't define you. We experience them, we feel them. But when we're getting attached to emotions, that can also feel like, defining yourself by those, by your anger, by your worry, by your fear. by the sadness. So again, we want to take moments to step back and observe and be that observer that's looking from the outside in. Anybody else have anything to add here? We've definitely covered a lot, and any thoughts coming up, any feedback from hearing some of those best practices? Right. Another way too, right, is just observing your notifications on our phones and that overload. So monitoring your notifications or your responses to the need to check your phone all the time, or to be listening to music, or to be watching something on TV. So just to that need to always be busy, or the need to always just have that mental stimulation happening. And I'm not saying, again, sometimes we might need those things they're coping mechanisms to have, and sometimes we need to do that. But again, just observing when we're getting stuck in avoidance, when we're comfort eating and we're doing that because we're stressed, and we're not eating healthy meals, because healthy meals do help to give you the nutrients, the minerals, the vitamins, all of those things that we need to function, to have good brain health, to have good heart health, blood flow, to support all the organs and all the systems that help the body to keep functioning. Right? So healthy diet, very important, and just acknowledging and recognizing when it's okay to have comfort food, right? But just recognizing when we're constantly having the need for comfort food. Or yeah, exactly, Peter. Yeah, counseling, absolutely. So super helpful. So sometimes counseling, it can be professional, and sometimes counseling can just be calling up a friend and just somebody that maybe relates or can understand or offer different perspective to help ground you. Because again, as well as grounding is also a big way to feel stress relief. So just feeling your feet on the earth, feel your toes, feel the stability, feel the solid foundation underneath you. Sometimes when we feel high levels of stress, we feel floating, we don't feel grounded, we feel scattered all over the place. So just taking moments, even just pull out an exercise mat, or stand in your home and just feel your toes on the earth, lift them up, put them back down, press into your heels, lift your arches, close your eyes, feel connected, feel your body and your mind just getting rooted and connected. So also really powerful way to step into presence. A lot of the times too, when we can feel high stressed, we're thinking so far into the future of all the possible outcomes, sometimes the worst outcomes, instead of just being focused and present in that moment. So yes, also just that's great feedback, everyone. I love it. It's so helpful and insightful that to share all of your feedback, things that are working for you, or suggestions. So that's what we are here for. So anything else that comes to mind? I know for me personally, positive reframing mentally is super powerful. And laughter therapy, just finding ways to take ourselves less seriously, very, very important. And focusing on what I can control, and rather than staying focused and attached to what I can't control, been really, really powerful, super powerful and helpful in my life in navigating a rare condition and a progressively debilitating condition, and also just managing personal relationships, and managing career and changing careers, and just experiencing life trauma, right? A lot of these things that I mentioned to you today, I have practiced and I continue to practice in my life. And I've done it over the course of many years, right? So, I'm not saying I just get up and every day I'm checking this off and I do it all in one day. No, it's a practice. Because we go through different waves of stress, and different scenarios need different coping strategies and different stress relievers. Sometimes even just having a nice bath, an Epsom salt bath, is really helpful to release tension in the body. So, that's one way that I also really rely on those Epsom baths and magnesium baths to be able to help support what my body needs when I'm dealing with physical stress in the body and emotional stress too. Journaling as well, I think, some of you may know, right? I'm writing a book, and a lot of what my book consists of is a lot of, a lot of it is from all the journals that I've written over the course of my life. So these, noted moments and those moments, going through it, and I was writing a lot, and, now just navigating different challenges. I have the journals there to read, to help give me perspective, but also for me to help all of you in the future when it comes to sharing some of my real life experiences and real life emotions and ways that I've used some of these practices, these best practices to navigate my life and to be here today. So if there is any other questions or any feedback, anything you want to add today, please just add it into the chat. Thank you so much for being here. We also have our support raiser coming up this Sunday at 6:30 to 8:30. It is our 3rd annual support raiser in Port Credit. And if you want more information, it's misfitclub.ca. So misfitclub.ca, and there's lots more information there about our event and just about the community group and our goals, our missions, and our network as well, our expanding and growing community. So thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for your feedback and your insight as well. It's so helpful when we can relate and when we can share, because then it really does help us know that we're not alone, right? And sometimes we can have stress, and we look for other ways to relieve that stress, and we think that it's helping, and sometimes it's actually just putting us into a deeper rut. So just having these awarenesses, everyone, notice when you're you're feeling stressed out, what are you opting for? What do you do when you're stressed? Because in those moments, they're life-changing moments. So if you have more awareness of that and you have more control over the ways you manage your stress, it's life-changing. It can improve your quality of life drastically, improve your mood, nurture relationships, have just a better approach and enthusiastic approach to life. So, you deserve that. You deserve that. Like, truly, they say happiness is like a decision away, right? And sometimes that really can be true. I mean, sometimes, of course, it takes a few decisions, but no, really, it is perspective, right? So changing your perspective can really just help you to change your life. Positive reframing and gratitude. Thank you all so much for being here. You all are so amazing. I love joining you all every single week. Let's keep it going. Let's return back next Wednesday with more on life's universal knowledge and helping us to promote each other's well-being and raise our level of consciousness and promote health conscious living in our lives and all the lives of everyone around us. Thank you so much, everyone. Lots of love in conscious love and light. See you all soon. Take care. Bye.